In this video, we are going to see about null and alternative hypothesis in statistics. What is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is an idea that can be tested. A hypothesis is an educated guess that's formed at the beginning of a research experiment and can be used in almost every field. A hypothesis is a statement that introduces a research question and proposes an expected result. It is an integral part of the scientific method that forms the basis of scientific experiments. Therefore, you need to be careful and thorough when building your hypothesis. A minor flaw in the construction of your hypothesis could have an adverse effect on your experiment. Types of research hypothesis. Mainly there are two types of research hypothesis. Number 1. Null hypothesis. H0. Number 2. Alternative hypothesis. H1. What is null hypothesis? The null hypothesis H0 is the commonly accepted fact. This is the theory that people used to believe till now. It is called null because the theory can be rejected, nullified or disproved to prove the new theory is true. Not so long ago, the accepted fact was that the Earth was flat. Of course, we know it isn't flat now, but in order for people to accept the fact, the Earth is not flat, we had to have some scientists to verify the null hypothesis. So scientists like Copernicus came in and said no, the Earth is not flat, so that became an alternative hypothesis. Researchers work to reject, nullify, or disprove the null hypothesis. Researchers come up with an alternate hypothesis, one that they think explains a phenomenon, and then work to reject the null hypothesis. What is alternative hypothesis? The alternate hypothesis will just be the opposite of the null hypothesis. The alternate hypothesis is usually what you will be testing in hypothesis testing. It's a statement that you or another researcher thinks is true and one that can ultimately lead you to reject the null hypothesis and replace it with the alternate hypothesis. If you can gather enough data to support the alternative hypothesis, then it will replace the null hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis includes a statement that contradicts the null hypothesis. A researcher does additional research to find errors or fallacies in the null hypothesis. Following the research, which uses the alternative hypothesis as a guide, you may decide whether you have enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. You may also reject the alternative hypothesis and choose a different one. Examples of null and alternative hypothesis. Example 1. Null hypothesis, H0. Sun revolves around the Earth. Alternative hypothesis, H1. Earth revolves around the Sun. Example 2. Null hypothesis, H0. Earth is flat. Alternative hypothesis, H1. Earth is round. Example 3. Null hypothesis, H0. Roger Federer is the best tennis player in the world. Alternative hypothesis, H1. Djokovic is the best tennis player in the world. Example 4. Null hypothesis, H0. Now before pandemic the belief was, employees are more productive in office. Alternative hypothesis, H1. Employees can be productive at home also. Example 5. Null hypothesis. Drinking coffee in the morning will have no effect on level of alertness. Alternative hypothesis, H1. Drinking coffee in the morning can increase the level of alertness. If you have any doubts regarding this topic, please comment down below. I will respond as per my best. Signing out.